Hello everyone, this is the Psalmist here. Today I just want to speak to you about how atheism and science has become as dogmatic as religion. A lot of atheists and a lot of scientists will tell you that they are not religious because a lot of people have come to say because of the works of atheists like Richard Dawkins, how they go out of their way to write books and to preach about atheism, about how it is the only real truth about how everything came into being is through evolution. And people have asked about, but aren't you becoming a little bit more like religious people by doing all these things? They say no, it's not religion because they oppose religion. So they think that by saying that we're not religious because we are opposing religion, that is actually an answer that should be accepted. They believe that in the answer that they give that we are not religious because we are opposing religion, that should be an accepted. This is like an acceptable answer. I mean, you could fight a dictator while you yourself you're a dictator. I'll give you an example. So the dictator is a dictator over a country, but you are a dictator over an organization which is fighting a dictatorship. So in the way that you run your organization, what you say goes. No one question you. You are the law. You are a law unto yourself, and you are a law unto everyone who follows you. And whoever questions you, you kill. That is a dictatorship. And you are fighting a national dictator who does whatever he wants, and anyone who opposes him at country level gets killed or arrested, or however dictators deal with their opposition. Do you realize that you can be a dictator and oppose dictatorship? So that you could come and become a dictator and run a dictatorship. So in the same vein, an atheist can be saying that I'm not religious. I'm just opposing religion. I hate religion. But in the way that he does his opposing of religion, in the way that he conducts himself, become religious. It's not about what he's going to say in terms of saying, no, I'm not religious because I oppose religion. No, it will be in the way that he acts. Because, of course, what he's saying, he's going to say to support his standpoint. He doesn't want to appear to be the very thing that he's claiming to oppose. I want to give you an example. In the scientific world right now, you have beliefs or statements or standpoints or dispositions. In the scientific world, the disposition and the standpoint is that there is no God. There is no intelligent designer. Everything came about an explosion, and there was rocks, and these rocks were inorganic matter, and then they somehow became organic. And it was through this transition from inorganic to organic matter that gave birth to life. And then from there you had singular cell systems which became multi-cell systems, and then it went on and on. Fish grew hands and they become whatever, and then we eventually came from monkeys. That is the standpoint of science. That is the standpoint of atheism. Now, if you can have a scientist who for himself has proven that it cannot be so, it cannot be true that everything came because of an explosion, and the timeline that we're given that the earth is hundreds of millions of years old or billions of years old, there are scientists who are saying that no, it cannot be so because there are a lot of scientists right now who are discovering that there could have been civilization before our civilization. You see, but according to scientists, they are saying that we came from monkeys, and then from there was a stone age. We're using stones as tools, and then we evolved, and then that's how now we became technology that we have. That means that human beings right now are as smart and wise as they have ever been. There's never been clever human beings like we are. That's the scientific standpoint. But there's been discoveries being made that actually, they were human beings who were way advanced more than us, and we can never probably be as advanced as they are. So these scientists who are bringing such kind of statements, who are saying that there is an intelligent designer, and then the scientific timeline that we're given is not true. There were humans before us who were way much more wise, much more technological than us. A lot of the scientists are even saying that the pre-flood time of Noah's time was more advanced than our time. You see, they are saying that, and there's more and more discoveries being made. You see, but there's one problem. Any scientist who stands by that has to be an independent scientist with his own money, who will have to do his scientific experiments by his own money, or has somebody who cares about him, love him, and give him the money. You can't get this from mainstream supply of money for scientific experiments on all these things, wherever these scientists get money from. You can't get that. They become victimized. Some of them lose their jobs. That means that if you work for a company which is a science company or a technology company which believes that there is no God, and then the earth is billions and billions of years old, and we are as clever as a human has ever been, there's never been anyone more clever than we are, and you say, no, it's not like that, you get victimized and you lose your job. And this is a fact. I'm not making this up because I'm a Christian. This is a fact. If you do not believe what I'm saying, watch the documentary, which is available on YouTube, by the way. Documentary about no intelligent design allowed, or I think it says no intelligent design allowed, but somewhere along this line about no intelligent design allowed, in which scientists are being victimized because they don't believe the mainstream belief of what science believe. They are saying, these scientists are saying there's intelligent design. Some of the scientists contradict what science is saying. So these people lose their jobs. These people lose funding. You see, these people are intimidated to believe that there is no God. Just like in religion, when, in Christianity, if a person is, a Christian who goes to church, but does not conform to the teaching of Christ, does not conform to the church rules, they can be excommunicated. First of all, they have to be talked to and told them, but this is a church. This is a church of God, and we're supposed to live exactly the way that God wants us to live. You see, but this person keeps continuing and refusing to change. The Bible says that this person can be excommunicated after the due process of how to deal with him has been followed. This person can be kicked out of the church. You see, that is sort of dogmatic, but that is religion. Religion is allowed. Religion is dogmatic. You understand? But the problem becomes when science becomes as dogmatic as religion. In the same way that a Christian can be excommunicated for not following what has already been taught for thousands of years and try to bring new things into the church. Science is doing the same thing. Scientists who do not believe what Charles Darwin has taught, or what Richard Dawkins is saying, or what Stephen Hawking is saying, get excommunicated. They lose their jobs. They lose funding. Do you see there? So it's like you have to believe what has been taught before you. If you don't believe what has been taught before you about God and about science and contradict it, you lose your job. You can lose funding over it. So when you're a scientist, you no longer become an investigator. You no longer become an experimenter. You no longer become an inquiring person, a person who wants to discover how things work, a person who wants to break things down and see how they work so that he can make a conclusive statement. No. If they tell you that this computer works like this, and then you want to find out for yourself, and then you open it, and you find that actually it does not work the way that you're being told, and you want to make a public statement, the people who have been funding you to do this, they take away the funding. They're excommunicating you. So what does that mean about science? Does it mean that science has become as dogmatic as religion? And does that mean if they are as dogmatic as religion, therefore we can make a logical conclusion and say, therefore science has become religious? They're not religious in terms of, going to church on Sunday, having actually they do have doctrines. Actually, they do have teachings, because the teachings of evolution can be taken as the Bible of science, the Bible of atheism. The teachings of Stephen Hawking can be taken as the dogma, the doctrine of atheism and the doctrines of science. You see, the teachings of Richard Dawkins can be taken as the doctrines of science, because these are the men who are at the foremost, the forefront of atheism and science, which does not believe that God exists. The same way as you're going to have people who are at the forefront of what Christianity is and what religion is, like Paul, you see, like the Apostle John, like David, like Moses. So you have Richard Dawkins, you have Stephen Hawking. Do you see that? So, but the problem is that because the scientists and the atheists are saying, no, we're not religious because we oppose religion. In that, yes, it can make sense when they're saying that. But in their action, they're opposing what they're saying. They are opposing religion because religion is dogmatic and all that. But in their own action in science, they have the same character of dogmatism as religions do. You see, but the problem is that in the same way as in Christianity, you have Christians who actually just believe by habit, because you have a lot of Christians who are not actually Christians. In the God Delusion, Richard Dawkins actually says that there is no such a thing as a Christian child, but a child of Christian parents. This is true. Well, just because he's an atheist does not mean that he can make, when he makes a truthful statement about Christianity, we have to deny it just because he's an atheist. It is true. No one is Christian because their parents are Christian. That means there is no Christian child. So he is correct. If your enemy is telling the truth, you cannot deny the truth just because he's your enemy. You see, but there's a lot of Christians who are Christians in that manner, that they were born of Christian parents, and they believe they are Christian just because of that. They don't remember themselves actually having a Damascus moment, or they don't remember themselves actually grabbing hold of the hand of Christ and walking behind him and following him. All they know is that they've been going to church all their lives. You see, they don't remember the transformation of the before and the after. This is not to say that you must say, I used to kill people, or I used to do all these evil things now. No, you must be able to say, even when you have never really done sins which are visible, you must be able to say that at this point I didn't know Christ as much as I know him now. So you can have a before and an after. So I'm not saying that Christians should say that, I used to steal, I used to do all that, and God gave me a new heart, and I saw that it was evil, and I stopped, and now I'm Christian, I'm filled with the Spirit. No, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you must be able to know that at this point in my life, I did not know God. I was going to church, I read the Bible, but I did not know God. How do I know that I did know God? Because I know God now. That's what a Christian must be like. You understand? So we have Christians like that, who, in the very same way that you have scientists and atheists like that, who just believe out of habit. They don't actually think, or they don't actually study what has been written by other atheists or by other scientists. They don't actually listen to these statements which have been made by atheists and scientists that there is an intelligent design, or there should be an intelligent design, if you are to have the world to be the way that it is, or if you are to have the universe to be the way that it is, but it's not God. They don't question this thing and say, but how do you know that? I mean, that's a conclusive statement. So, but how would you be able to prove them? They don't do that. They just believe because they love this atheist, or they love the scientist, or they love him so much, they love their work, and they enjoy reading their work, and they just believe because he's Stephen Hawking, he said it, then it must be true, and no one can oppose it. You're not opposing, you're proving. There's a difference between opposing and proving. When an atheist makes a statement like, there is an intelligent designer, but it's not God, to ask him and to question him, to try to find out so that he can elaborate more how that you're just trying to understand where he's coming from. Just like the same way as a reporter will be asking you questions. I mean, what do you mean? Explain to us, how do you mean when you say that there should be an intelligent designer because of the way the universe is, but it cannot be God. How do you come to how do you come to that conclusion? How do you come to that statement? So you're asking a question so you could understand for yourself. So that when you take that man's statement and make it yours and be convicted of it and believe it, you can be accountable for your own disposition. You see, the thing about being a human being is that you have to be accountable for what you believe, what you say, and what you stand for. But the only way you can do that is if you really have understanding. Understanding is what gives a person the ability to account. Because if you don't understand, you're taking other people's statements and make them yours without understanding. And later you're gonna find out that you're wrong. You may in fact state with your own mouth that I was misled by so and so. In the same way that Christianity should not be believed just because we are saying that it's from God. People should not believe in Christ just because Christ says he's the Son of God. They should be able for themselves to validate whether indeed, if God has been God of the Old Testament, he will be Christ of the New Testament. You see, this is why Peter in his preachings was always saying about the Messiah had to suffer. So they always mentioned the Old Testament about what David has said about the Messiah, what the prophets have said about the Messiah. Jesus himself also mentioned everything that the prophets have said about the Messiah. So he was proving that, yes, I am him. What you believe in the Old Testament, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's why he said, I came to fulfill what was said. You understand that? So in atheism also, those who are atheists, they must not be this religious people who just believe because their pastor has said it, but they cannot take this statement that there is a God, that Christ is the Messiah, that Jesus Christ is God, and own up to it and own it for themselves, that they'll be willing to die and to be burned at the stake because of it. Because when you believe something that you know for a fact for yourself that it is true, and you are proving it for yourself, not because someone whom you respect or someone whom you hold in high regard has said that it's true. No, because you proved it for yourself. You are able to account for everything that you say. So you no longer say that scientists have proven it. Because a true person who believes in atheism, who believes in scientism, that there is no God, must no longer say that scientists have proved it. They must say that I have proved it. Because when you say scientists have proved it, you're saying that you merely believe because another scientist has told you. I'm not saying you shouldn't consider what scientists have said or what atheists have written or what they've done. Of course, that will be your base. That will be your beginning of understanding this atheism. The same way as the beginning of our understanding of God is what the Bible is written. But we have to know God for ourselves so that we can own up to what the Bible says, so that we can oppose anything with the Bible, with faith, believing that this is true, not just because the Bible teaches it, but because we have seen it for ourselves. But we confirm it through what the Bible says. So meaning that what Moses has said, I have confirmed it for myself. And I believe what he has written because I have confirmed it for myself. So I'm no longer just going to say because Moses said it. I'm saying what I'm saying because I myself have seen that what Moses was saying is true. I've seen it for myself. I cannot, because imagine if I was to go to a new country, the country which does not know God, and tell them about God, and tell them about the laws of God, about the goodness of God. And they say, but how do you know this God of yours, whom you are preaching about, is true and is real? And I say, because Paul has said. And they say, who's Paul? I say, Paul is an apostle of the Bible. But they say, but Paul is just a man. How do you know yourself that what Paul has taught is true? I should be able to say, because I have proven for myself, and give examples and say, look at the law of God, how good it is. Thou shalt not kill. Killing hurts people. Thou shalt not do this. So sin hurts people. Everything that people cry about is sin. You see, so when God said, do not commit sin, he said, don't hurt other people. A human being will not come up with something like that. So that will be the reason that I will use, that I have seen for myself, that everything that God says do not do is hurtful and destructive. And everything that God says do is good and constructive and bring joy and happiness. So atheists cannot just say that Richard Dawkins has proved it or Stephen Hawking has said it. They have to prove for themselves. Is it possible that you can have a big ball of energy which gives us all these things and not be God? So compare what the Bible has said about God and scientifically say, okay, if God says he's almighty, almighty will mean energy. So if an atheist is saying that, we don't think about God as God, we think of energy, he's not actually denying God. He just doesn't want to say that that ball of energy comes from God. You see, so you are now able to prove. And if the Bible says that, all these things historically took place in Egypt, in Israel, in Syria, in Macedonia, in Greece, and we know that we have Greece, we have Damascus, we have Jerusalem, we have Tel Aviv, we have Egypt. Why don't we go to those places and prove this thing? Prove once and for all that the Bible is a historical document. And if the Bible is a historical document, meaning that what they were saying, actually, what the Bible actually teaches, actually did happen, by proving about the temple, proving about Rachel's tomb, proving all these things, these physical geographic areas which the Bible talks about, the temple of Baal, which of course ISIS destroyed, these things existed. So it means that these things the Bible is talking about, they are not inventions. They actually did happen. And if they did happen, and these people are talking about God, that means that there's a possibility that this God existed. Now, the only thing that will remain is proving for a fact. Because you were able to prove for a fact that the Bible is a historical document, it's a historical record. Then the only thing that remains will be to prove that God existed. Then you can take it from there. Then you are being scientific. You're not making up theories in opposition to what other people believe and teach it in a school system as if it's a fact. And then because a lot of the things that people enjoy, you are the one who made them. And then you have a reputation. And then you get much more respect for what you say because of the medicines, because of the computers, because of the transport system, because of the constructions which you have made. And then you mostly get believed based on a reputation, not because what you are saying is a fact. You see, because you can take a very well-educated, theologian, a scholar of the Bible, and put them in a debate and find somebody who has never even attended like kindergarten, which was Christian, but has only merely read the Bible. And you take them and put them in a debate, and you really find out that actually this man who has not even learned about the Bible has more understanding of the Bible than the one who has a PhD in theology. So this one with a PhD who is educated will have a greater reputation. But this one without a reputation is saying more truth. So should we now just say because the one who's educated, who has a PhD in theology, is right just because of that, not looking actually of what has been said and what is fact and what is true and what can be proven? You see, so science can be able to prove whether the Bible is historical or not. But the problem is that have they tried to? Have they done it? The Bible talks about giants. Can they not prove that there have been giants in the world who have lived? You see, the Bible talks about the wisdom of Egypt. Can they not scientifically prove that Egypt was wise? They can prove all these things, but why are they not doing it? Well, the problem is that if they were to do it, they will be supporting a statement which they oppose. So it's like when you oppose someone, even when you see something that they are saying which is correct, but because you don't want them to be correct, you want to be correct, you make an argument. So even when you don't want to mention anything that will support him. I mean, Christians, a lot of Christians appreciate science. They love science. I love science. This microphone is because of science. You see, this classes are because of science. So I appreciate science. So Christians don't oppose science. Most religious people don't oppose science. They appreciate science. You understand? But the problem with science is that science oppose religion, that it's fallacies. It's not true. It's just inventions of man. So science does not want to coexist with religion. Scientists do not want to coexist with Christianity. So they have a statement that there is no God. They will do anything, whatever it takes, to oppose, to support the statement, to oppose the existence of God. Even when they have the means and the technology to prove that all these documents, all these things are being said about God, can be proven to be fact. And then which, if they can prove that the Bible is fact in terms of historical records, then it means that they might have to reconsider that these people who are writing about God, as much as they were writing truth about what was existing in their time, and they were claiming that this God was talking to them, this God was giving them all these things, that means that this God is real. Then what remains is for them to prove that God is real. They don't want to do that because they can do this. You see, but they don't want to be scientific when it comes to God. They would rather make up theories and statements which aren't scientific. And because they have power in the school system based on what the school system teaches, so what they teach becomes sort of fact because children go to school to learn about dinosaurs, to learn about evolution, to learn about how we were once monkeys. And they have all these images in the walls of schools, in the walls of universities. They have all these toys which are about aliens, about dinosaurs. So all around you, you have everything that supports the worldview, the atheistic worldview, which does not support the Christian worldview. So more and more people will become more atheistic because that's what the world looks like. Not that it's true. It's because you have to understand that evidence could be planted. You could kill a person and change the evidence. And when the investigators come there, the forensic investigators come there, if they are not discerning, if they don't have an experience, they may not be able to see that this evidence was planted. So all these dinosaur toys, all these alien toys, all these movies about aliens, about space and all that, this is evidence being planted. And it planted where? In the minds of man. Do you see that? So when you plant in the minds of man, you direct the thinking of man. You direct their worldview. So everyone who's going to come and talk about God, about Christ, becomes a babbler because all you have in your mind is scientific. It's a scientific worldview. The toys that you get from these fast food restaurants are about evolution. The pictures that you get at universities and schools are about evolution. The movies that you're looking at are more about evolution than they are more about Christianity. Do you see that? So this evidence may look scientific, but it can be planted also. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that investigate and see whether it is planted or not. So I'm saying that the scientists and the atheists, if they believe that the Bible is planted evidence, they must scientifically prove that it is planted evidence. They mustn't just make up a statement and run with that. And how do you prove that? Take the very things that are in the Bible and prove them whether they are fact or they are made up. And if you are able to do this, you will be able to prove your standpoint scientifically, so that you can be able to, in a debate, and say, well, there's no such a thing as Israel. There's no such a thing as Egypt. There's no such a thing as Rachel's tomb. There's no such a thing as Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed by fire and brimstone, because there's no proof of such. Because if you can prove that, thousands of years ago, people used to make fire by wood and all that, so that means you must be able to go to the geographical area which is directed by the Bible where it is, to see whether this place could have had cities. Because if you were to destroy New York, or London or Johannesburg, and it gets covered by soil, even after hundreds of thousands of years, you could be able to scientifically prove that this must have been a city. You could see the streets, you could see the buildings and all that. You will be able to scientifically prove that there were people living here. But the problem is that not most Christians are not scientists, and most scientists are not Christians. So Christians wouldn't go to prove their worldview to the scientists, and scientists cannot go and prove something that will oppose their worldview. You understand? That's the dilemma that there is in terms of this.